Good morning, Guya. My name is Ovenden. I'm the founder and director of Yakum. Yakum works to protect and regenerate indigenous forests and build cultural, food, medicinal and territorial sovereignty. We do reforestation project based around planting ancestral food plants, medicinal plants and trees which are used for construction, particularly species which are over-harvested because of medicinal bark or very valuable rare timbers. So my role in Yakum, I coordinate several projects, coordinate with the team. So I liaise with the accountant, I liaise with donors like Guya, do about 8 million kind of octopus things at the same time. So Yakum works with 4 indigenous nations here in the Amazon. We work with Quechua communities, Shuar, Cofan and Siecopay. The Cofan and Siecopay nations are up in the north of Ecuador in the Sucumbíos province. The Quechua in Napo and down in Pastaza with a couple of Shuar communities. What makes Yakum special from other reforestation projects? The fact that all the projects are co-designed with the communities that we work with. There's a lot of involvement of youth and women from the design and planning phase to the implementation, the planting, the selection of what species they want to plant, the monitoring and evaluation of the project, communication, taking photos. Additionally, Yakum has a really high biodiversity rating for a reforestation project. Many projects use 15 species or 20 different species. Yakum to date has used over more than 175 different species of trees which produce medicines, different timbers, food, fibers and seeds that are used in traditional handcraft. Yakum's been working in Ecuador for almost 4 years now, although it's been a legal foundation for just less than 2. It began with myself and a couple of local guys, and now we have a staff of 10 people. The Yakum staff is a mix of international, indigenous and local experts. We have a really committed, amazing, high-energy team. We work with Shuar, Cofan, Siecopay and Quechua communities across 3 provinces of the Ecuadorian Amazon. Yakum's been working with Sachahuaysa for almost 3 years now. It's a really entrepreneurial community. They have a really successful tourism business. They have a really exciting youth group who are doing really cool stuff. They're committed, they're motivated and they're organized. So we've been developing a really deep relationship with them and are now partnering with Sachahuaysa to continue reforesting both in the community land and in 4 or 5 communities around Sachahuaysa. And our collaboration with Guya is going to deepen and expand that work around the Cotundo area, which is the nearest town to Sachahuaysa. Around the Sachahuaysa community, over the last decades, it's been heavily deforested for livestock, and Sachahuaysa have taken the initiative to begin reforesting the area. They want to lose all the cattle grass, and they want to bring back the forest so that the young people in the community and the surrounding communities can learn again about important indigenous plants, important medicines, foods. The community want to regain food and medicinal sovereignty in the area. Indigenous Amazonian cultures are kind of like permaculture times 100. So they're completely in tune with their surroundings. They know what every tree species is for. They get their own medicine out of the forest, their own food out of the forest. All the resources for construction, artwork and everything comes from the forest. And with deforestation for livestock, that gets lost because the plant species get lost and the knowledge gets lost. What Sachahuaysa want to do is bring back all of these tree species that were so important to their ancestors, build on the community granddads' knowledge and get the youth to go back to understanding how they can get indigenous sovereignty, how they can grow their own food again, have a healthier diet and be less dependent on kind of white rice and tinned tuna from outside. How does the reforestation work with Sachahuaysa? Most of the work is done through community Minga days. When the community want to get something big done, they want to build a new building or they want to bag up 1,000 plants, we put on lunch and everybody from the community, from 3-year-old Marco Antonio to 74-year-old Jose, everybody shows up, everybody mucks in, we have a laugh, but we get a lot of stuff done. We plan together with the community how we're going to do the project. So what species of trees do they want to plant? How do they want to organize it? What does Yakum need to provide? What's the community going to provide? And then we'll throw dates out there. We'll bring some seeds to the nursery. They'll bring seeds to the nursery. put the seeds to germinate. Then we'll have days where we'll pull together substrate, soil for the planting bags, get the saplings ready, a little bit like this. When the plants get to about this size, then they're ready for planting out. So we'll do another minga to go survey the terrain, which plants we're going to put where, how we're going to do the design, which plants the community wants to plant in different areas, and then just get everybody out there and get the plants in the ground. After the trees have been planted, we'll go into the plot, register each tree, what species is it. We'll take a small sample of the trees and measure their growth, which we're doing with the community youth group Sachakuirana. The kids will come into the plot with us with a database. They'll come out there with vernier calipers and a measuring tape, measure the height, measure the tree diameter, so that we can understand how well the trees are doing. We also track tree mortality. Every tree that dies gets replaced, so that Sachawaisa, Yakum and the donors get certainty that trees that get planted make it up to 3 years and get over 2 meters tall at least, so that they can kind of fend for themselves. So a minga is kind of like a community work party. So if the community needs to get something done, one person or one family isn't enough to make sure it gets done. They'll put on lunch. You might get 20 people show up, you might get 50 people show up. Sometimes it's to weave a thatched roof for the community house. Sometimes it's to do reforestation. In our case, it's kind of a coordinated and uncoordinated session where the community comes together as a team, and whatever it is they need to get done, they get it done. They'll drink a little bit of chicha, they'll drink some guayusa, have a chat, have a laugh, and at the end of the day, whatever it is they need to do gets finished. If I wanted to explain a minga to someone in Germany, I would say it's a little bit like a community get together. All the neighbors on your street come out, somebody cooks sauerkraut and sausage. And yeah, everyone on the street would come out, kind of muck in. It might be to like sweep the street or pick up plastic or something like that. I guess it's kind of way to translate that. Generally in indigenous Amazonian cultures, the food is provided from what's generally called a chakra, although in different indigenous languages it has different names. It's essentially a managed forest garden where people will plant sometimes more than 300 different tree and shrub species to provide food, medicine, construction materials like bamboo, timber. In some cases, plants that will attract animals, birds, watusa, things like that. And what Yakum's trying to do in planting these really diverse food forests is to bring back the diversity from these chakras, because in the past, when indigenous communities had these really high diversity chakras, they had really excellent nutrition. They had a whole range of really highly nutritious Amazonian superfoods, all growing in their backyard. And now that diversity, kind of with distance from the city, that diversity has dropped. So we want to bring that back so communities again have access to a really diverse diet, really diverse medicines, and also to the knowledge behind that. Yeah, we're trying to encourage within communities and between communities for particularly youth groups to kind of pull on the learning of elders so that they remember what all the important foods were, what the important medicines were, once again have access to those resources. During the pandemic, there were some communities who contacted us saying that they didn't have enough food, they didn't have enough medicine to be able to treat their families, and they realized that their diverse chakra food forest gardens were really important and that some of this had been lost. So what Yakum is doing with these communities now is discussing what does resilience look like, what does food security look like, what does food sovereignty look like, and what's the pathway towards gaining those for each community. Each community is different, the foods they like to eat are different, the medicine that they know about is different. So the process is about kind of tailor-making the reforestation to bring back resources that the communities need and help them to educate youth to retain the knowledge that they need in order to access those resources. Monoculture and cattle ranching, in terms of giving food sovereignty to a family or to a community, what are the resources available from a field of cattle grass? Beef and not a lot else. To be able to access the resources in that beef, they have to take the cow somewhere, have to sell the cow, then they get money and can buy things. What we want to do is make those cattle ranches disappear, bring back the forest, but selecting species so that there's not only biodiversity on the land, but also nutritional diversity. We want to take advantage of the Amazon's most powerful superfoods and medicines. So doing reforestation of cattle pastures with 50 different species of highly nutritious fruits means that the community or the family who owns that land get access to those fruits. You can mix into the species configuration cash crops like guayusa that the community can sell, but at the same time there need to be resources that they can consume. Sometimes they need medicine in case someone has a snake bite or somebody gets a fever, or maybe they don't have enough to eat, they need some fruit. So the idea is to bring back biodiversity for the ecosystem, so diverse fruits growing on the trees that are available for animals to eat, but also nutritional diversity for the community so they have a varied diet, don't move towards this white rice local diet that's been happening over the last decades. What's the cost of the project? The cost of Yakum's work, it costs us about $4 to establish one tree. That includes collecting the seeds, and germinating the seeds, transplanting the germinated seeds into bags, then planting the saplings out, and after planting, 3 years or in some cases 4 years of management, clearing weeds, applying fertilizers and things like that to make sure that the trees get up to sufficient height and that the crown gets the sufficient width to shade out the grass underneath and be able to get by and survive on its own. Kind of within that $4, there are various educational and participatory exercises that we'll do along the way. So workshops with the community, planning sessions with the community, engaging youth groups and stuff like that. On a separate note, Yakum is beginning to do workshops around food processing. So what to do once communities have harvested the fruit, what to do with additional fruit that the family is not going to consume, canning, jarring, making jam, dehydrating, pressing palm fruits and nuts to make oils. And all of these things will contribute to the community having more resources at hand, needing to buy less things from outside and having more products that they can sell to the local community. To get the best results out of the plants and to get the best results out of the projects, we have a lot of experience within our team in terms of pesticides, nursery management, reforestation management, selection of species and things like that. But I think what makes Yakum a little bit different is that we really highly value community knowledge. So when we're planning each project, we consult with the community what they think is important to make sure that they get good survival of the trees, to make sure that they get good production of fruits. And we'll combine knowledge that we have about including leguminous species to build soil, doing compost and things like that, with local Quechua or Cofan knowledge about which plants should be combined together to get a better yield. I guess getting the best results out of the projects is about listening to the community and then working together to make sure that the project gets well managed. Okay, what's the connection between Yakum and Germans? Firstly, guayusa is a really important drink for the communities here. It's a sacred drink. It's been cultivated for many centuries. It's one of the most antioxidant teas out there, more than green tea. And actually many communities swear by it as a medicine. So some communities will tell you, we got through COVID-19 because of guayusa. Buying guayusa makes sure that families over here have an income. It's been pretty difficult the last few months because of COVID. They need that income to raise their families. They need that income to make investments within the community, for community infrastructure. And donating to Yakum or buying your bag of guayusa means that Yakum has more capacity to do its work. Doing the reforestation and the kind of socio-economic work that Yakum does over here isn't cheap. It's a lot of work, it needs a lot of care, it needs a lot of time, and we really need a little support from you guys. So any donation or purchase of guayusa, from which a percentage of each package comes to us, ensures food sovereignty for Quechua families, includes better access to important medicine plants, and it means that the Napo region gets high quality, high biodiversity reforestation. How can you support Yakum's work and the Quechua of Napo? Each packet of guayusa that you purchase directly supports Yakum and its work, and on the webpage drinkGUYA.com there's a link where you guys can directly donate to Yakum. And you can directly contribute however much you like if you want to have an additional impact in our work. Thanks so much, everybody. So buy your guayusa tea and keep supporting us over here. Thank you.